Thanks, everyone. you know, it's awesome how many people were so thrilled that I won this really important award no one had ever heard of. All right, so it's the closing keynote after yet another Dev Days, and like always, it's bigger and better and more passionate and more exciting and more interesting than the last one. I look forward to the same again next time we're in. And you know, I've got to start with some thanks. So thanks to Microsoft for hosting us. Thanks to the FHIR team and the yellow shirts for organising. And thanks to the HL7 staff for all the organising as well. I also really appreciated the keynote speakers this year, this meeting. It was a really good set of keynote speakers. I found them really exciting and motivational, although listening to Greg and Dana yesterday, I was kind of thinking that the good side is that we really do make a difference. And that's, for me, really, really important. But the downside is how many people are going to die before we get to them? What holds us back? But there was a few other things that I thought of when I was listening to the keynote speakers. So, well, I thought of this. If you pay back, welcome to Mickey's fire engine. But Mickey has been a great help to us in building the fire. I'm not sure that quite works, but never mind. Then I was introduced to our oldest member. This is our oldest member at work here, who's also our fastest speaking member. And then, of course, welcome then to our youngest members, the Student Award winners. So clap for the Student Award winners. Now, the most important thing is the community. Come on, someone would have said that. The community is the most important thing what we have. And when I think about the community and I think about engagement, one of the things I think about is diversity. And I wanted to talk a little bit about diversity. When I think about diversity, I think about age, and gender and race, but actually, how do any of those things matter when it comes to healthcare IT? It matters a little bit. So, one of the things that a few people commented to me was gender ratio here. It's about 80-20. Is that good or bad? It depends on your perspective, because a typical IT conference might be not quite so 80-20, but it could be better. So I asked Reen about our running gender diversity, and it's holding pretty constant in terms of male to female. But how would we build that? Do we need to build that? But first of all, before I go on, I wanted to acknowledge our wonderful female faculty. So thank you to all of you for your contributions to our community. One thing that's really important to me is, why do people come to our community? And that if people do come and join us and bring their passion and their skills and their interests, that they feel welcome. If you're interested in what it takes to be a member of an IT community, and perhaps why the gender bias is actually a deeper cultural bias that's a problem, I recommend that you read this link, and I'll put this in the slides so it gets distributed. It's about a community of One Direction fans who turned out to be programmers even though they never thought of themselves as programmers because they just had a job to do. And it comes back to some of what Judy spoke about and what Dana spoke about. I'm not a programmer, but I have a job to do with my health. And what I want and value in this community, and I'm told that we have it, is that people who come here feel welcome. So welcome. And that's really important because health is for patients, and this is us. We're all patients. And what we're doing here is for us. You don't know whose life in this room you're going to save. But what we're doing is key. I'm going to tell you a story, my story. It's not actually my story. It's my current healthcare story. It's my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law has just come out of hospital yesterday after 2 weeks in hospital. But it's not the hospital stay that concerns me. My mother-in-law is getting elderly. She went to the doctor. The doctor referred her to a specialist for a particular problem she had. The specialist put her on a particular medication. She went back to the GP and the GP said, no, you shouldn't take that medication. Stop taking that medication. And she went back to the specialist and he said, who told you to stop taking the medication I told you to take? Take it or I won't help you. Now, I don't know how much of that story is actually accurate because my mother-in-law's grasp on details is slipping. But that's what she thinks happened, and she won't go to either of them anymore because she's afraid of the conflict. But that doesn't make any sense that the conflict happened through her. I live in a country that doesn't have an NPRM that says patients have a legal right to their record. I live in a country where we don't routinely get access to our records unless we make a paid pull of our paper records as a scanned PDF. I think they fax it to themselves before they give it to us. We don't have that right to get it at no cost. We have a right to get it at a reasonable cost, but since we don't have a right to get it, an ability to get it at all, I don't know how to fix that story. I don't know how to resolve that without actually personally getting involved, which is what I'm going to do when I get home. But it doesn't need to be like that. We need to give patients a care plan that their care team has access to so that instead of arguing with each other by proxy through a patient who is not a good record of what they said and who's a terrible recipient of the stress that causes, that they actually discuss with each other what is the right treatment for this patient in this context. That's not rocket science technically, but culturally that's rocket science for the care system that I see in my home, and the care team, the care system that I hear everywhere around the world. What we do here is personal for me, and it's personal for everybody I've spoken to. Personal for everybody here. We're working this meeting on establishing a patient advocacy work group at HL7, a formal voice to reflect a patient perspective. And I'm really, really grateful that Dave Bronkart was here to help us, to prod us, to push us along on that. It's not that we don't care about the clinical story, the clinical perspective, and we have lots of reasons to grow that. But we have lots of paid reasons for that to just happen. Patient perspective, although we all bring that, I wanted to have a focused voice, a focal point within HL7 to prompt us to behave better. For instance, I'd like us, and this is an idea I thank Lloyd for, to actually have, as part of every specification we publish, a patient's description of why we have this specification and what it offers for the patient. All right. So that drive to make life better for patients, a patient advocacy group can tell us, remind us, what is it we need to build? Because we build infrastructure. It's a long payoff. It's hard for patient advocates to get that. They go, what is it that you do? What is it that it makes any difference? And we go, well, we write technical standards. And they go, But you know what the impact of the technical standards is. It creates the capability to change the game. That's what we're doing here. That's why it's important for us to build that. Now, one thing that's going to be a feature going forwards is lots and lots of arguments about what is safe. What is it? Is it safe to give patients their data? Is it safe to let them interpret the data by themselves? I can tell you, as someone who practiced from a clinical side in lab medicine, that it's not safe to let the clinicians interpret the lab data, let alone the patients. But that's the wrong question. The right question is it safe to let the patient life drift on while an urgent, unappreciated pathology laboratory result sits on the GP's desk till he gets round to looking at it? Is that better? We're going to have a whole lot of noise about the safety of a different kind of healthcare system as it happens to the healthcare system over the next few years. Safety is going to be a huge part of what we do because we're sort of ground zero for causing that change. So, you know what I'm going to say? How many people have read the safety checklist in FHIR spec? Hey, the numbers are going up. That's awesome. Please read that. It's a list of the ways we found that people get confused about the records, and record confusion is a key contributor to killing patients. Read the safety checklist. I asked Steve Posnack yesterday, please put that in the regulation. Have you read the safety checklist? Hopefully we'll get Argonaut to do a safety checklist for Argonaut-specific focus, and then we can say to everybody, have you read the safety checklist? When you offer an app to the patient, you need to tell the patient, we checked the safety checklist, we are safe for you, because the reports we're getting are that patient apps are not yet safe. They're not at all safe. A lot of them aren't, because people don't have the background knowledge that we have to bring safety to bear. And on the subject of patients, we have this really weird thing in the healthcare system that we can change, which is that most chronically ill patients have a primary carer who's a family member, parent or a child or a spouse. That primary carer has no formal role in the information system surrounding the patient. Does that make any sense? It doesn't make any sense. And that's what we do by creating information flows, identifying the blocks. You hear a lot about information blocking, and you always hear about that in the context of big business, money motivations, but that's not the problems that kill people. Information blocks is as information flows through the system and gets stuck at some gate, waiting for some approval somewhere before it can move on to be brought to bear at the right place. And the system is full of gates. I had a friend who found a lump in her breast, and she had to go to the GP, and she had to get a scan. She had to refer her to the specialist. She had to go for another kind of scan, back to the specialist. He wasn't really happy with the scan, so he's on for another scan, back to the specialist. Now he's going to schedule her for a chemo 6 months from finding the lump to starting the chemo for about 6 hours of work with all these gates. to work through. If she was in a different part of the country where I live, she could have gone to the breast clinic and had all that done in one day, because if we can put it all in one building, we can manage access to the gates and run them through the process in one day. But if we don't have one building, we can't do that, because we don't have any information systems to do it otherwise. Those are the information blocks that we need to focus on, the day-to-day information blocks and scheduling blocks that mean that we can't put coherent clinical processes together and bring in a coherent information system around the patient so that the right care can happen at the right time. I really appreciated Greg Simon's passion around the subject and his urgent need for information to flow to where it needs to flow, but we can't have systems that can't hold data secure because it's people's lives. So it means that we need to be really good at what we do and then hand the problem on to people and say, well, you have no excuse now. So enough of the rant. What we do really, really changes lives and hope for people. I want to thank you all for coming to DevDays. I want to thank you for becoming part of our community. I hope that all you who are first-time attendees at DevDays are motivated to be an ongoing part of our community, to join us on Julep, to come to more DevDays, to come to HL7 meetings, to contribute your knowledge, tell us when you find problems, suggest solutions, evangelize, encourage people to come to connectathons. That's how we grow the community, and the community leads to the standard, and the community leads to changed outcomes for people for better lives. So thank you for coming. Now I have new friends after this meeting, and it's the saddest part of the end of the meeting is saying goodbye to everybody. And as the meeting grows, it seems harder to find time to spend with our friends, but thank you for growing the meeting for us. And so I thank you all and look forward to seeing you again at a future FHIR event of one kind or other.